Guys, FPL is back. Oh my god, I can't believe it. I didn't expect it to come this soon, as some of you may know, and FPL Twitter account itself even outed me as getting it wrong earlier today. It's fine, it's back. I'm glad I'm wrong. I'm so glad FPL is back. And today for you, I've got my very first FPL draft video for game week 1. Of course, we've not got fixtures to account for. We're assuming that City and United are going to miss game week 1. And these are just my very immediate thoughts, but hopefully I can do a really, really good first draft video for you today. I've been waiting for this moment for so long, so I'm very keen to get straight into it. Here we have my beautiful animated pitch. So if you are enjoying the animations in this video and you like having, you like watching FPL content, please do consider subscribing. There's so much more to come on this channel, and hopefully we can get you to win all of your mini leagues. So we're going to jump right in with my first player. Like the video, subscribe. So first player is Lloris. Now, a lot of you will be thinking, why Lloris? I can have Lloris for 5.5 million, but why would I do that when I can get Nick Pope for 5.5 million? Nick Pope, the top scoring goalkeeper of the whole league. It's a no-brainer, right? It's not. It's not a no-brainer. And I tell you what, and this is the benefit of watching channels like these. You get the insider info, you know. So, what you think about Nick Pope is he got a good score across the whole season. Lloris actually missed a large amount of the season. So, when we adjust the stats, things start to look a little bit differently. So, Lloris, 3.81 saves per 90 minutes compared to Pope at 3 saves per 90 minute. What that tells us is Lloris makes almost an entire another save per game that he plays. So more save points for Lloris immediately. Lloris has a higher save percentage in the league than any other of the top goalkeepers. So think Pope, 71.9%, Alisson, 72.5%, Edison, 71.6% of save percentage. Lloris, 81.8%, so an entire 10% more saves made by Lloris. So that's just insane stats. And on top of that, it was the 4th best for goals conceded per 90 out of starting goalkeepers in a defensive Spurs side, a much improved defensive side. Spurs are under an incredibly defensive manager in Jose Mourinho, in a top 6 team, or a typically top 6 team. Now, when we're comparing that to Pope, now it looks a little bit better, but that is, of course, a little bit expensive for a goalkeeper. Usually I like to play with a 5 million goalkeeper, maybe a 4.5 goalkeeper, but I like this as a set and forget option, really, for until I play my first wild card, essentially, and maybe then I move him on potentially, depending on how things are going. But looks really good, and I think Lloris absolutely stays. Next up in my team, the most obvious choice of the whole team, really, is Trent Alexander-Arnold, 5th highest scoring player in the league for just 7.5 million. What a bargain. I don't know what they were thinking at FPL Towers when they chose to keep Trent Alexander-Arnold at such a low price. I genuinely thought he could be 8 million, 8.5 million, and I would still put him in my team. So to get him for this cheap is just absolutely delightful. As we know, Liverpool play with really attacking forwards, right backs and left backs. They get really far forward. Trent Alexander also in set pieces as well, so he's going to be getting goals from free kicks, and he's going to get goals from crosses and corners and assists and all kinds of stuff like that. So he's going to be a really, really good attacking fullback to have. And look at his ownership, for God's sake. His ownership is that high for a very good reason. He's a must-have. He's an essential. Get him in your team. Don't even think about it. No questions. Come on, no arguments here. We can't have them. Right, so going into the rest of my defence, now because I've spent a little bit of money on that first defender, I spent a little bit of money on my goalkeeper. So in terms of the rest of my defence, I'm going to play a slightly cheap game. So my first player in defence here, aside from the big man Trent Alexander-Arnold, is Luke Ayling. And he's a 4.5 million defender. And my plan is to rotate 3 4.5 million defenders out of the 2 remaining slots. So there's a lot of great options at 4.5 million. So that's what I'm planning to do. And then we can just rotate them based on their fixture. If they have a good fixture, then we'll put them in. If they have a bad fixture, then we've got the other guys to rotate with them. So the reason for Luke Ayling is because Leeds conceded the fewest goals in the Championship last season. So when we're thinking of a promoted team that's going to come in and hopefully have a good defensive record, similarly to Sheffield United last season, came up with the best defensive record in the Championship and then had a really good defensive record in the Premiership. We're going to be doing the same thing with Leeds. So because they are the top defensive team coming up, we'll keep an eye on them and we'll think they're not going to be such whipping boys as maybe the other promoted teams. They're going to keep a few clean sheets. Luke Ayling also has the benefit of playing really, really attacking football. So the right back and the left back in Leeds United team like to really push forward, and we like that a lot. And that's sort of proven by Luke Ayling. 4 goals and 5 assists last season for Leeds United in the Championship. So really, really good attacking returns for a defender as well. And for this price, you know, people will ignore him because he's part of a promoted team, but we're going to look at getting some of these bargains, try and identify these little gems. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing with Luke Ayling. And he is a player who starts pretty much every game for Leeds as well. So rotation isn't really a worry, unless, of course, Leeds do sign another right back. Next up is Ruben Vinegar, Salt and Vinegar. We'll call him Salt and Vinegar, just so no one gets confused, because that's no less confusing, is it? So you may not know, or you may know, that Johnny Otto, the usual Wolves left wing back, has an ACL injury, so he's going to be out of the team for at least half the season. Ruben Vinegar is going to be the young backup left back who's going to be filling in for Johnny Otto whilst he is injured. So at least until the first wild card. He's going to be really good to just sit in my team. Wolves' 5th best defensive record in the Premier League last season. So it's a really good defensive team. Fullbacks, of course, push up really far in the Wolves team as well. It looks really good for 4.5 million. So I don't really want to pass up on this opportunity to get this in. Whilst I know it's unfortunate that Johnny's got an injury, but in FPL we need to capitalise and get the bargains of the backup players who are filling in. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. Moving on to midfield, and another pretty much obvious choice, and my team is Mo Salah, 2nd highest point scorer, greedy, hungry on penalties, much better than Mane for the same price, and he's actually, Mo Salah, somehow is 0.5 million cheaper than he was last season. So we're getting the same player for less. We're getting the 2nd highest point scorer for less, and particularly when we're thinking no City players, no United players, so whereas we might go for Rashford in midfield, Bruno Fernandes in midfield, Sterling in midfield, De Bruyne in midfield, we can't have any of those. So outside of them, Mo Salah is really one of those premium options, and we've got to have a couple of premium options at least for the first game week, whilst we wait for the other guys to come back into their respective teams, come back and start playing Premier League football again. So Mo Salah is one of those players, who the premium players who we want to get in. If we want to take him out later, that's fine, but yeah, I'm very confident about having Mo Salah in my starting team, pretty much no matter what the fixtures are, to be honest. So yeah, he's going straight in. I won't speak about him too much because we know Mo Salah is fantastic. Similarly, Aubameyang, another premium. What I really like about Aubameyang is he's now a midfielder. He's now a 12 million midfielder, so his price has gone up, but he's dropped back into midfield, which means he's now going to collect an extra point for every goal he scores. He's going to collect clean sheet points for every time Arsenal get a clean sheet, which I don't know how often that will happen, but still extra points. And if you ignore bonus points completely and consider how many points Mo Salah got compared to Aubameyang, and you add 1 extra point for every goal Aubameyang scored and 1 extra point for every clean sheet Arsenal got whilst Aubameyang was on the field, Aubameyang's actually more of a higher scoring player than Mo Salah last season, which is insane. So they're about on the same level in terms of how many points they're likely to pick up. Arsenal are looking like an improved side. Aubameyang could even find himself playing as a striker this season, depending on the future of Lacazette as well. So we could even have an out-of-position player there. So Aubameyang, I think, is another player who you really want to strongly consider having in your team. And I'm definitely going to be having him in my team. So, next up, Christian Pulisic. I really like Christian Pulisic. He was Chelsea's key player at the end of last season. It's unfortunate that he's 8.5 million because that is a lot of money, but I do think he could be worth it. He could be on the end of a lot of chances created by their new creative players. He could be creating a lot of chances for these new players, such as Werner, who's going to be coming in as well for Chelsea. And this new look Chelsea attack is going to feature Christian Pulisic in it. And you know, he's looked like such a great and important player for Chelsea. He's a joy to watch. Really, really good player. And he's constantly improving as well. So I really, really like the look of him. The only concern is, will he come back from injury in time for game week 1? I think he'll probably be ready in terms of fitness, but will he be match fit? Maybe he'll be dropped for the first game, maybe put on the bench for the first game, something like that. That's the only concern there, but I do like the look of Pulisic regardless. Next up, we're going to go for some cheapy cheaps in midfield. So James Ward-Prowse. Interestingly, he boasted one of the best expected goal involvements during post-lockdown break. So the amount of goals he was expected to get, the amount of assists he was expected to get, looked really, really good. Like sort of one of the top 10 players out of, including, you know, Salah, including Sterling, De Bruyne. So really, really impressive that his numbers were around that level. He's on all set pieces. He's nailed. He covers not having Ings. I'm not going to have Ings in this team. If you are having Ings, I don't blame you, but I think he is quite expensive. And I think I can use the money a little bit better. But if you want to go for him, fair play. I don't think he's a bad pick. But I'm not having Ings in this team. So James Ward-Prowse potentially covers some of the attacking returns from Southampton as well. With those set pieces, you know, corners, free kick specialist, on penalties very often, Ward-Prowse as well. And he's a differential as well. I mean, look at that ownership. It's not bad at all. So yeah, a lot of people haven't picked up on James Ward-Prowse yet, but maybe a few of you, after watching this video, might consider him. Next up is Thomas Soucek. He plays in the Fellaini role in the Moyes' West Ham team. So as you might know, David Moyes, he likes Marouane Fellaini a lot. So basically what he did was he converted Marouane Fellaini, who's typically a centre defensive midfielder, and he likes to play him further up the pitch just because he's tall, he can get in the box, he can get on the end of headers and crosses and what have you. And Thomas Soucek occupies that exact same role. So at the end of sort of last season, we saw Thomas Soucek, even though he's a centre defensive midfielder, he was actually playing essentially as a second striker or / attacking midfielder, getting in the box constantly. He loves to get on the end of set pieces. He loves getting on the end of crosses. He got 3 goals in 6 starts after the breaks, which sort of speaks for itself. He got 8 goals and 3 assists in 17 league games in the Czech League before he signed for West Ham in January. And he also scored 2 goals in 6 Champions League games as well. So he's proven he can do it at the highest level in the Premier League, in the Champions League. He can score goals. The only concern is if Declan Rice is sold, Soucek might actually have to play in that defensive midfield position instead, assuming that they don't sign a replacement for Rice. So that's the only thing that's kind of doubt. But assuming Rice stays / Rice leaves and they sign a replacement centre defensive midfielder, Soucek is going to be playing in an attacking midfield role for 5 million. What a bargain. Get in my team immediately and score us some goals, even though you play for West Ham. Right, moving to the forwards now, and I've gone for Timo Werner as my premium option. 34 goals and 13 assists in 45 games for RB Leipzig last season in Germany. That's more than a goal contribution per game if you can't be bothered to get that calculator out. Players from Germany do usually translate pretty well to the Premier League. They usually don't have too much trouble adjusting, which is why I'm hoping Werner will come in and do quite well. Usually, when you're thinking about your game week 1 team, you should try and pick players that are tried and tested, players that you know can perform, and then any sort of differential players coming from outside, you can then pick out the best ones. But I do think Werner is going to hit the ground running, and I'm fairly confident. And I do just think he's one of the better premium forward options, because there's not really that many forward options that are premium playing for a top team that I'm really too convinced by. So Timo Werner is my guy up front, and joining him up front is Michail Antonio, 0.5 million cheaper than last season, but now reclassified as a forward, so he's going to be getting slightly less points for his goals. But he finished last season absolutely amazingly. I'll never forget the moment that I brought Antonio in as a transfer. The game week that he scored 26 points for me. I was over the moon. I brought him in, straight in, 4 goals, 26 points, soaring up the ranks. I was absolutely enjoying that. So perhaps I've got a bit of a soft spot for him there. But I do like Antonio. He has shifted the stigma around him that he has a poor injury record. And in my opinion, he's probably the best mid to low tier forward option out there at the moment. You could potentially look at Chris Wood as well, but Antonio is the guy I'm looking at just because I was so impressed with him. And when West Ham at the end of last season, and he was the centre of every attack, perhaps along with Soucek and Jared Bowen. So that is my 11. Now we'll move on to the bench quickly. We'll pop up the bench on the screen there for you. More great animations, subscribe if you like it. So on my bench, Orjan Nyland, non-playing budget goalkeeper from Villa. He only costs 4 million. He's just there, just to sit there really. Lloris is my set and forget. He's going to be playing every game, so I don't need to worry about backup keeper. Patrick Bamford is my sort of backup attacker, 5.5 million. Leeds created so many chances for Bamford last season, but he's not that clinical at all. I do have some doubts there, but there's not really many other cheap strikers out there that I'm too convinced by. So I might do a little bit more research on this one. As I say, this video is very initial thoughts. If Leeds don't sign another striker though, he could be a fairly good backup option there. Next up, William Saliba. Will he start? If so, my lord, what an amazing bargain. One of the most highly rated young defenders in world football, and he could be a great way into the Arsenal defence without breaking the bank. Of course, with Arsenal's defence, we always have a few doubts. So we don't want to be spending too much on Arsenal defenders. Sort of Tierney, David Luiz are like 5.5 million. I don't really want to stretch that far for an Arsenal defender, even though I'm an Arsenal fan. So William Saliba, if he does play, if he does start, he's going to be absolutely fantastic. A real bargain. And Arsenal will pick up clean sheets naturally. They still do get quite good clean sheets in terms of the whole league. It's just as a top 6 team, they're not quite there defensively typically. But they have improved, and Saliba is going to be a great pick if he plays. Wait and see on that one, but I'm very excited to see. Finally, Nathan Ferguson. You might not have heard of Nathan Ferguson. He's only 4 million on FPL, and he's a really highly rated young right back who just signed for Crystal Palace from West Brom. Palace historically are a defensive side, and he played fairly regularly for West Brom as well. So is he going to come in and play for Crystal Palace? I'm not 100% convinced, but the typical right back for Crystal Palace is Joel Ward, who has had injury problems last season, and he didn't look too great last season either. Of course, Martin Kelly can also play at right back for Crystal Palace, but that's not his natural position. So I do think Nathan Ferguson could genuinely challenge for the right back position at Crystal Palace, and if he can play in a slightly attacking right back role, then that could look really good as well. Potentially get some goal and assist contributions as well there. So definitely one to keep an eye on, Nathan Ferguson. And what better way to keep an eye on a player than to have him in your FPL team? So that's what I'm doing. Nathan Ferguson, he's my 4.0 million defensive backup, if you like. This team, of course, leaves 0.5 million in the bank if you've been doing your maths, which is going to give us 0.5 million in the bank for Game Week 2 transfers, and never doubt how valuable that will be for getting players who may have increased their price. There might be a player who is slightly more that you want to get in after we've seen the first games, and we might say, wow, that player looks amazing. His price has just gone up 0.1. I can't afford to get him in my team anymore. But if you have the 0.5 in your bench, in your bank, you can certainly get him in now. So yes, the final notes, don't pay too much attention to percentage ownership. As I made this team, I was taking the percentage ownership of the time where only sort of maybe even less than 100,000 people have signed up. So the people who are selecting players now typically will be selecting the gems. And we'll see for example, let's look at Thomas Soucek. His percentage ownership looks really high there, but that's because it's only the hardcore player base who are looking and picking their teams right now. And the hardcore player base, sort of, a lot of them will know Thomas Soucek is actually a sneaky, really nice gem. But as we get towards Game Week 1 deadline, we'll notice that when we've got 7 million players, Thomas Soucek's percentage ownership is going to be something like 2%, because all the more casual players won't know to put this beautiful gem in their team. So that's the reason his ownership looks so high, but actually it's going to be a lot lower. So don't worry too much about that, and you can apply similar logics to any other of these players, really. So yeah, there you go. There's my team. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed watching this team, please do consider subscribing and liking the video if you found it helpful at all. I've got plenty more FPL content to do. As you can tell, I'm super excited. I've been so looking forward to making this video, and I'm going to be churning out so many more really, really helpful FPL videos to try and help you improve as an FPL player, help you win mini leagues, improve your overall rank, whatever you're aiming to do. I'm hopefully here to help you. If you've got any questions at all, any comments you want to make, any thoughts on my team, I answer every comment in my comment section here on YouTube. So please do have a look there. And also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm available there. All links and stuff, including the league code. If you want to join my mini league, that's going to be in the description as well. So yeah, just do everything that you want to do. Stick around. Hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye bye.